Do you ever feel like you just can't focus the way you used to? You sit down to study or work, but within a few minutes, your attention drifts. You tell yourself, I'll just check my phone for 2 minutes, then I'll get back to work. But somehow, those 2 minutes turn into half an hour, and you don't even realize it. And when you finally return, your brain doesn't cooperate the way it did before. You have to reread the same line, restart the same task, and slowly, your entire flow falls apart. At first, it feels like a small thing, something that happens to everyone, but over time, it turns into a habit. Now, no matter how hard you try, you can't stay focused on one thing for more than 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes it's a notification, sometimes a message, and sometimes your mind just wanders for no reason at all. You tell yourself, today I'll focus, but within a short time, everything falls apart again. Then the frustration begins. You start asking yourself, why is this happening to me? You feel like maybe you're not as disciplined as you used to be. Maybe you lack consistency, or maybe you've just become weak. You see others working for hours without distraction, and you start comparing yourself to them. It feels like they have something special, and you're missing something. Every day, you promise yourself you'll fix it. You'll put your phone away, avoid distractions, and work with full focus. But the next day, the same cycle begins again. You try, you make a little progress, but then suddenly your attention drifts, and once again, it's the same guilt, the same frustration, and the same feeling that you're falling behind your own goals. Slowly, this stops being just a habit. It becomes part of your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who can't focus, someone who starts things, but never finishes them. And that belief keeps making you feel weaker from the inside. But if you look closely, something strange becomes clear. This problem isn't just yours. Today, millions of people are going through the exact same struggle, losing focus, getting distracted again and again, and then blaming themselves for it. Everyone is trying, yet they keep failing over and over. So the real question is, have so many people suddenly become weak? Or is it possible that our focus is slowly being taken away from us? To understand this, imagine a simple scenario. Let's say there's a guy named Rahul. He sits down to study with full intention. Today, he's going to focus without any distractions. In the beginning, everything goes well. He opens his book, reads a few pages, and gradually, his mind starts getting into the topic. It feels like today might actually be different. But then, his phone buzzes with a notification. He thinks, I'll just check it once and get back to studying. He picks up his phone, reads a message, and then notices another notification. Then he opens another app, and before he knows it, 5 minutes turn into 10, then 20. He doesn't even realize. When he slipped out of that focused state, he was just in. By the time he becomes aware of it, it's already too late. He opens his book again, but now he can't feel the same focus. The same lines don't make sense. The same content feels boring. His mind keeps wandering, and he tries to force himself to concentrate. But the more he forces it, the more his mind resists. After a while, he gives up in frustration and closes the book. One thought keeps repeating. In his head, I just can't do this. I can't focus. And that's where the real problem cycle begins. He blames himself, questions his willpower, and slowly, his confidence starts to drop. But if you look carefully at the whole situation, one thing becomes very clear. Rahul didn't choose to lose focus. He didn't intentionally choose distraction. It was just a small interruption. And after that, everything slipped out of control on its own. And that's exactly what's happening to us every day. We think we're controlling distractions, but in reality, distractions are controlling us. One small trigger, a notification, a random thought, and our entire attention shifts. And the most dangerous part? We believe it's our fault. We think we're weak, that we lack discipline, and that's why we can't focus. But the truth is, this isn't just a simple habit issue. There's a deeper pattern behind it, a system that keeps pulling us back into the same cycle again and again. And until we understand that pattern, we stay stuck in the same loop: effort, distraction, frustration, and then guilt. This loop is so subtle that you don't even realize you're trapped in it. Every time you tell yourself, this time will be different, this time I'll stay in control, you start working with confidence, promising yourself that you won't lose focus again. But within a short while, the same story repeats itself. The beginning is always strong. You get into your work, make some progress, and it feels like you're finally in control. But then a small interruption appears, a notification, a message, or even a random thought. And that one tiny moment is enough to break your entire flow. You tell yourself, it's okay, I'll just get back to it quickly. But that's the biggest illusion, because while you may return physically, mentally, your brain doesn't go back to the same depth. Your attention keeps drifting, your focus becomes fragmented, and gradually, the work starts to feel heavier. Then comes frustration. You push yourself, but your brain doesn't cooperate. You try, but the same energy just isn't there. Eventually, you give in. You either quit the task or continue half-heartedly. And then comes guilt. You start asking yourself, why can't I do this? What's wrong with me? That thought slowly begins to settle inside you. And every time the cycle repeats, your self-confidence drops a little more. But the most dangerous part is, this loop doesn't happen just once. It repeats multiple times throughout the day. With every distraction, your brain resets. And each time, you have to start over because you can't see this reset happening. It feels like you simply can't focus. Slowly, your entire day gets consumed by this loop. You stay busy, but you're not productive. You work, but you never reach depth. And by the end of the day, it feels like you've wasted all your time. And this is where the biggest misunderstanding begins. You start believing the problem is you, your habits, your discipline, your willpower. But if you observe this loop carefully, you'll realize something important. This isn't just your weakness. It's a pattern, one that keeps pulling you back to the same place again and again. And until you recognize that pattern, no matter how hard you try, you'll stay stuck in the same cycle over and over every single day without even understanding what the real problem is. And as long as you don't see that pattern, it will always feel like it's your fault. Gradually, this loop stops being just a habit. It becomes a belief. You begin convincing yourself that something is lacking in you. You feel like you're not disciplined enough. Your willpower is weak. And maybe you're not as capable as you once thought. This belief quietly settles into your mind. And every time you fail, it grows stronger. You look at others, people who can work for hours without distraction, who stay focused on their goals. And then you start comparing yourself to them. It feels like they have something special, some quality that you don't. You think, if I were just a little stronger, I could do the same. Then the inner battle begins. You create strict rules for yourself. I won't use my phone anymore. I'll work with full discipline. I won't allow any distractions. And for a while, you even follow these rules. But the moment your mind gets tired or a small trigger appears, you fall right back into the same pattern. And once again, the same cycle. Guilt, frustration, and self-blame. You start getting frustrated with yourself. It feels like you're not living up to your own expectations. Slowly, you begin to emotionally distance yourself from your goals because the fear of failing again starts to break you from the inside. You still try, but deep down, a voice begins to whisper, I can't do this. The most dangerous part is you start taking this problem personally. It begins to feel like a part of your personality. You start seeing yourself as someone who can't focus, someone who starts things, but never finishes them. And that identity pulls you down even further. But there's something very important hidden here, something we often ignore. If this were truly just your weakness, then why does the same situation repeat every time? Why does the same pattern show up again and again? The same distractions, the same breaks, the same guilt. Why? Is this really just a lack of willpower? Or is it possible that what you're fighting is far more powerful than you think? And if that's true, then maybe the reality isn't as simple as it has seemed all along. Because if you look closely, one thing becomes very clear. You do try every time. You genuinely want to focus. You take your work seriously. You want to change. And yet, you keep falling back into the same pattern again and again. That in itself is the biggest sign that the problem isn't just your desire or your discipline. The truth is, you are not the problem. Your focus has been taken from you. That might sound a little strange at first, but if you really try to understand it, things start to become clear. In today's world, your attention has become one of the most valuable resources. Huge companies, apps, and platforms are constantly competing to capture as much of your time and attention as possible. And they don't rely on simple features. They use deep psychology. Every time you open an app, every time you scroll, every time you click on a notification, none of it is random. It's carefully designed to keep you there longer, because the more time you spend, the more they benefit. Every click, every pause, every reaction is tracked, so that next time you're shown exactly what will hold your attention even longer. And that's why when you try to focus, your mind keeps getting pulled in that direction. This isn't just your weakness. It's a system built to distract you repeatedly. It feels like you're the one picking up your phone, but in reality, your brain is reacting to patterns that have been reinforced over and over again. This doesn't mean you have no control. It means you're playing a game where the rules were never explained to you. You think it's just a habit, but in reality, it's an environment shaping your behavior. And until you understand that environment, you'll keep blaming yourself. And this is where the biggest shift happens. When you realize that you are not the problem, you finally gain clarity about what you're actually up against. And once you understand that this isn't just about you, the next question becomes, how does this system actually work? You don't need any technical knowledge to understand it. Just observe your daily behavior. Whenever you pick up your phone, it feels like your decision. But the truth is, by the time you reach that moment, your brain has already been influenced by multiple small signals. Let's say you're working, and suddenly your attention drifts a little. That's a natural moment. Your brain is looking for a bit of relief. And right at that moment, your mind automatically moves toward the easiest source of instant reward, your phone. This isn't a coincidence. It's a repeated pattern. The moment you pick up your phone, you see something that grabs your attention. A reel, a message, a notification. And again, none of it is random. It's designed to engage you instantly. One thing ends and another begins without pause. Your brain doesn't even get the chance to decide whether it should stop. Over time, your brain learns this pattern. The moment it feels boredom or difficulty, it runs toward the easier path, the one that offers instant stimulation. And that's exactly why, whenever you try to do something, even slightly difficult, your mind keeps drifting toward distraction. But this is where the real game begins. This system doesn't just take your time. It trains your attention. Your brain gradually becomes addicted to short bursts of stimulation. It starts preferring quick rewards over deep focus. And that's why you struggle to stay with one thing For a long time, you think you're multitasking, but in reality, you're constantly switching your attention, and every time you switch, your focus weakens. A little more. This process is so gradual that you don't even realize when your attention span starts shrinking. And the most interesting part, it all feels normal. It feels like your habit, your choice. But if you look deeper, you'll see that even that choice is being influenced by the environment, by the design that keeps pushing you in the same direction. This doesn't mean you have no control. It means you've been operating under the influence of a system that is constantly trying to capture your attention. And until you recognize that, you'll keep doing the very things you don't want to do again and again. Now, there's something very important. You need to understand whenever your attention shifts away from a task, your brain doesn't instantly return to the same place. It feels like you were distracted for just a few minutes, but in reality, that small break comes with a hidden cost. Let's say you're reading something or getting deep into a task. In the beginning, your mind slowly settles into it. After a few minutes, you enter a state of flow where things start making sense easily and the work feels smooth. But the moment an interruption happens, your brain is pulled out of that state. Now you return to your work, but your brain doesn't immediately go back to that same depth. It needs time to warm up again. During that time, you feel distracted, things take more effort to understand, and the work starts to feel heavier. And this is exactly where most people give up. In simple terms, every time your focus breaks, you're basically restarting. And if this keeps happening, you never reach that deep level where real focus exists. Now think about this. If your attention breaks 10 to 15 times a day, how many times are you restarting? That's why you stay busy, but don't feel productive. It feels like you're working all day, but in reality, you're just starting over again and again. And this illusion is the most dangerous part. You think the problem is your capability, but the real issue is that you're not getting the chance for continuous focus. Your brain keeps getting pulled away, and you never reach the state where your true potential shows up. Over time, your brain adapts to this pattern. It gets used to working in short bursts. Long periods of focus start to feel uncomfortable because your mind has been trained to expect interruptions. And once you understand this process, one thing becomes clear. You're not losing your focus. Your focus is being interrupted again and again. And as long as these interruptions continue, no matter how hard you try, you won't reach that deep focus where real progress happens. This is where the biggest insight comes in. You feel like you can't focus, but the truth is you were never really given the right opportunity. You've never consistently given your brain enough uninterrupted time to fully immerse itself in one task. Every time you begin to go deeper, something pulls you back to the surface, and gradually your mind becomes used to this shallow pattern. That's why it feels difficult to focus for long periods, not because you're incapable, but because your brain has adapted to constant interruptions. It's starting to forget what deep focus even feels like because it's never allowed to reach that state consistently. Now think about it from another angle. If someone is interrupted every 5 to 10 minutes, can they ever truly immerse themselves in a task? No, they'll keep restarting, but they'll never reach the point where understanding becomes clear, creativity kicks in, and real progress happens. And that's one of the biggest problems today. We think we're multitasking, but in reality, we're constantly breaking our attention. We jump from one task to another, then to a third, and it feels like we're being productive, but in truth, we're not fully present anywhere. Slowly, this becomes our default state. Sitting without distraction starts to feel uncomfortable. The moment boredom appears, your mind runs toward stimulation. It feels like you need to do something, watch something, consume something. And this habit never lets you be alone with your own thoughts. But that's where the real power lies. When your mind is free, when it thinks on its own, without external input, that's where your best ideas come from, where your understanding deepens, and where you start connecting things in new ways. And if that state is taken away from you, it's not just your focus that disappears. Your ability to think deeply starts weakening too. Now the picture becomes clear. The problem is not that you can't focus. The problem is that you're not in an environment that allows focus. And as long as the environment stays the same, you can keep trying to change yourself, but the result will remain the same. So the question is, if the problem isn't just within you, then what can you do? Can this situation actually be changed? The answer is yes, but not in the way you've been trying so far. Up until now, you've been trying to control yourself. You've been trying to increase your willpower, forcing yourself to stay away from distractions. But real change begins when you start controlling your environment. The first step is simple. Remove distractions, don't fight them. When you sit down to study or work, don't just put your phone on silent. Physically move it away. Put it in another room or somewhere that makes it inconvenient to reach. Because the easier it is to access, the more your brain will keep pulling you toward it. The second step is to divide your work into blocks. Instead of trying to focus for 3 to 4 hours straight, create 30 to 45-minute blocks of uninterrupted work. During that time, no notifications, no interruptions, just one task. And when the block ends, take a conscious break without guilt. The third step is to train your mind not to escape boredom. Whenever you get free time, don't immediately reach for your phone. Sit with your thoughts for a few minutes. It will feel uncomfortable at first, but gradually your mind will start becoming comfortable in that state again. And that's where real thinking develops. The fourth step is to observe your distractions. Whenever your mind wanders, ask yourself, why do I want to get distracted right now? Are you bored? Tired? Is the task feeling difficult? The moment you start noticing these patterns, your control begins to increase automatically. And most importantly, stop blaming yourself. Every time you get distracted, instead of judging yourself, observe it. Understand that this is a process, a habit that changes gradually. As you start implementing these small changes, you'll begin to notice a shift. You'll get more done in less time. Focusing will start to feel easier, and most importantly, you'll start trusting yourself again. This is an overnight change, but it's a real change. And when you apply it with understanding, you realize something powerful. Control was never outside. It was always within you, guided by the right awareness. And this is where the biggest transformation happens. In your identity, you no longer see yourself as someone who can't focus. You start seeing yourself as someone who finally understands what the real problem was. Earlier, when you got distracted, you blamed yourself. You thought you were weak, undisciplined, and maybe incapable of changing. But now your perspective has shifted. You understand that it was never just your fault. It was a system that had been shaping your attention over time. And the moment you realize that, the guilt starts to fade away. You stop fighting yourself and start understanding yourself. Now, distraction is no longer just a failure. It becomes a signal, a sign that your environment or your mental state is pulling you elsewhere. Now, when you sit down to work or study, you don't struggle blindly. You know what to do. You remove distractions in advance. You divide your time into focus blocks. You train your mind gradually to return to deep focus. And the most interesting part? Focusing no longer feels as hard as it used to, because now you're not forcing yourself. You've understood the system. Slowly, you begin to notice real changes. You get more done in less time. Your understanding improves. Your confidence starts coming back. And you begin to feel something you may have lost, a sense of control. And maybe that's the most important realization of all. You were never broken. You were just in an environment that kept distracting you. So the next time your attention drifts, don't blame yourself. Pause and recognize the pattern, because now you can see it. The truth is simple. You are not weak. Your focus was taken from you. And now you can take it back. If this made you think even a little differently, don't let it end here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments. Do you also feel like your focus isn't what it used to be? Because the more we understand this, the more we can take our control back, rock it,